Now, on Monday, Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital's intensive care unit lost its oxygen supply. A 10-metre piece of the copper pipe that feeds most of the ICU's oxygen supply was stolen. Luckily, no lives were lost. Today, patients were moved back into that ICU. But no sooner was that problem fixed than news of another act of theft, or perhaps sabotage, hit Africa's biggest hospital. I'm joined now by Gauteng provincial health spokesperson Motalatale Modiba. Mr. Modiba, thank you so much for joining us. Let's just talk about this latest incident, which I understand actually affected 2 theatres. What actually happened?
Look, Sally, thank you for having us. What happened is that while the clinicians were busy moving patients to the ICU, we got word around 10 or so that there seems to be a challenge with 2 of the theatres, theatre 15 and 16, whose water pressure, basically there was water leaking from the autoclave system. And when the matter was investigated further, it was then discovered that another copper pipe, which is responsible for feeding high-pressured water to the autoclave system, for the system that usually is critical in your theaters for sterilization of medical equipment. The piping system was tampered with. In fact, the pipes were cut to ensure that the water supply to the autoclave is actually intercepted. And that obviously would then impact on the theater, the 2 theaters that are critical for us to be able to run with medical procedures. But the good thing is that the clinicians there were able to quickly assess the situation and move the patients to a different ward in order to ensure that the scheduled operations are not affected. From the look of things, if you look at the pattern of what happened there, it needed to have been someone probably who is familiar with the environment for them to be able to directly target one of the plant rooms, and they needed to know exactly where to cut, so that there would be an impact on our operations at the facility. And I think we're not taking this lightly as the Gauteng Department of Health. And I know that even the provincial government has indicated that they will be indicating stern measures that are going to be taken to basically address the situation.
Does the Department of Health view this as a cable theft incident or a potential act of sabotage?
Look, it was not a cable theft incident. The copper pipe, it's a pipe that basically is a conduit to allow high water pressure to go into the theaters. This has got the hallmarks of a sabotage incident. Clearly, there's criminality here. There's people that are hell-bent on ensuring that they disrupt the health system. It can't be that we have this kind of incidents and happening in the manner in which they are happening. The plant room, where it's located, you needed to know exactly where you were going and what you were going there to do. And this is why we believe that it's probably an act of sabotage. The matter has been reported to the South African Police Service in Diepkloof for them they were on site actually coming to look at the situation, because it's the second incident that we have reported in as many days that they are currently probing. We are concerned that it seems like there is, while we are trying to improve the healthcare system, while we are trying to close the gaps where there are weaknesses, there seems to be people that are hell-bent on waging a war against communities. I mean, if you attack an institution like Bara in the manner in which it's been attacked now, it's clear that you are declaring war against communities there, especially when you know the significance of that particular facility, the amount of people that it services, and the fact that not so long ago we announced a backlog in terms of your surgeries and so forth, and now you have this kind of incidents. This is not an accident, and the MEC was on record yesterday saying that in as much as a case of theft has been opened and so forth, she would really want a situation where those that are responsible for this heinous act are actually charged with attempted murder, because
people's
lives are at risk.
I mean, it is,
Exactly.
thank goodness no one died. There was an incident in November striking nurses and admin staff outside Baragwanath. You're saying that, you know, the health department believes this is a deliberate act of sabotage and someone who knows the hospital. Is that the possible motive you're exploring, that it might be a disgruntled staff member? Who else would have a motive to do something like this?
Look, at this point in time, Sally, we would not really want to speculate on who we think might be responsible and so forth. But what we do know definitely for sure is that this is no freak accident. This is not an ordinary, a petty theft and so forth. It's a deliberate act. The people who did this, they knew where they needed to go for them to inflict disruption on the provision of services. So I think we were calling on the police to obviously prioritize these cases to ensure that they leave no stone unturned.
You know, just this week, we saw that the SANDF had been deployed, I think, to 4 power stations to guard national key points that they are, to make sure that government-owned infrastructure is protected. I'm wondering if the Gauteng provincial health authorities would welcome, perhaps, the deployment of the SANDF outside hospitals, even perhaps inside hospitals, to make sure that there are no more acts of what you strongly suspect to be sabotage.
Look, Sally, the Gauteng provincial government will soon be announcing measures that are being put in place to decisively deal with the situation, not only at Bara, but across all other health facilities. So I think when those measures are announced, it will become clear to everyone in terms of what is the response of the Gauteng provincial government insofar as tightening security at our facilities, but also ensuring that we're able to clamp down on this kind of incidents. And I think if there's issues of further deployment of other law enforcement agencies and so forth, that is a matter that I'm sure that when those measures are being announced, I think those considerations will also be made.
Well, thank you so much for speaking to us. Absolutely critical issue. 2 incidents of suspected sabotage, potentially putting patients' lives at risk at Africa's biggest hospital. Absolutely shocking. And it is very lucky indeed that no patients suffered through this. Thank you so much for speaking to us this evening. Gauteng Provincial Health Spokesperson Motalatale Modiba.